Hello. I don't know. I'm gonna have bad light here. So I'm kind of a mess, but I was literally in here doing my dance and yoga ritual for the day, and the light bulb clicked on. I following your purpose is something that can be very confusing at times. Not because it's hard to choose what you feel strongly about. You see these shadows here? I think it's my aloe vera plant. Okay. Anyways. It's not that we have a hard time picking what is meaningful to us, what lights us up, what we have. For me, a big part of that purpose, our life calling, which doesn't always have to be this grandiose, world-changing thing. A big part of our purpose comes from our own experiences. So what we go through, how we've lived, what challenges we faced, the dark nights of the soul that take us into that abyss of uncertainty and sadness and sorrow and not knowing where to go from there. I've had more than a few of those in my life. And I mean, we all have. I know I'm a Scorpio, and I assume everybody goes through the same type of emotions and shadow work scenarios that I do, but I know not everybody can or is willing to go into the dark parts of ourselves as much as Scorpios are known for being able to, the phoenix rising from the ashes type personality of being able to kind of collapse and burn everything down over and over and keep rising with a new light. And that's something I hold dearly to myself, because no matter what circumstances I go through, not the world putting on me or things happening to me, it's things that I am going through for my own growth process, for my own learning, for my own lessons, for my own wisdom. All of those things that I go through, I don't give up. And I constantly am trying to search within these situations of what can I take from it? What is it showing me? How can I not even use this experience for other people, but how can I be an example? And this goes not even just for anybody else who I would work with as a client, but this is for my children. And one of the biggest things I've learned in the last couple of years since my divorce, last few years, is that the most important people in my life are my children. And the most important people I should be giving an example to or being an example to is my children. So when we're considering our purposes in life, where our light shines the most, where our impact matters the most, where does that lie? Where is your impact the most important in your life? And for many of us, especially women, that's being mothers. The greatest impact we can give to the world now and for the future is how we support our children. What are we doing in our household and for our own self-growth, self-evolution, to be an example for our children? How are we guiding them? And this is where my light bulb moment came on. As someone who has come into the world of, I don't even know what to call it. I entered into the homeschool world with the idea of unschooling. I loved unschooling, radical unschooling. I learned a lot from Dana Martin. And I've explored that so much over the last 10 years now, 11 years. My oldest has just turned 11. And I've done it, well, since he was born, but really not till he was a couple years old. So in the unschooling, wild schooling, earth schooling world, even just as homeschoolers, one of the biggest things we learn is deschooling ourselves. So as mother, as the guidance system for your children in the home, in their learning process, the biggest starting point is for us to deschool, which is basically unlearning everything that we've been brought up in the public school system. The ways we've been taught to work to achieve grades, working for the high esteem, the rewards, avoiding punishments, going for achievements and accolades, and being the best in sports, the competitive nature of all of that, sports I don't think are a terrible thing, but the competitiveness that often comes from that, there can be a healthy competition, yes, but the pressure that parents often put on their children makes sports less enjoyable. And I'm going to say this, anybody who knows me from high school might be surprised by this. I was a dancer when I was little. Ended up being on dance team in high school, and I was a tennis player, and I was number one singles my sophomore through junior year, through some difficulties, by the way, because I got an underage when I was in high school. That's another little rebellion story. So then I was out for a little bit. Anyways, I was one of the best tennis players on our team because my dad was a tennis coach, and we were kind of brought into that environment. It became a means of earning a parent's love and accolades because of your achievements in that sport. It was a way of getting parents to pay attention to you. It wasn't necessarily for the enjoyment of the sport. Because now, since I graduated high school, I've maybe picked up a racket a handful of times. It was an okay sport. I didn't mind it. It was fun for a point, but it wasn't something that lit me up the way other things did. It was a good pastime in terms of staying active. It's a wonderful active sport. Anyways, my point of that is that's part of that deschooling process, is the way we were raised into going for reaching achievements, grades, rewards, that external validation of what you're doing versus what you're actually doing, immersing yourself in topics and subjects that you love and enjoy, and learning in a very organic way, more of a self-study, which a lot of people kind of dismiss self-study, but really much of my life and the way I've explored things has been self-study. I've taken courses and online courses and a lot of things here and there, but the crux of what I go by and what I've come to believe and feel strongly about has been immersing myself within things. And like flower essences is the new one. I've taken information I get books, I will watch YouTube videos, certain little courses I can find. I'll find people that do flower essences that I respect. Dr. Morse, I actually recently found information about flower essences through him. And Lotus Way, I really respect the work she's done, Katie Hess. And immerse myself in the information that people already have out there around that topic, and just learn as I go, teaching myself how to do it. And my one fault, I guess you could say, by learning that way is I don't always feel confident in what I'm bringing to the table, because I don't have some like big certification or license or high-end course I can show off saying, this is what I did. I paid $8,000 for this and now I'm worthy of a high ticket. Because even no matter what courses you go through, and I can say this about doctors, no matter how much you pay for school, how much work you put it in, it doesn't mean that you are right. It doesn't mean that you know all of the things. It doesn't mean that the information you've learned is even true. And that's the interesting thing about this world is we're immersed in our own self-studies, and everybody goes through different processes and different belief systems and come to different conclusions. And to come back to the point of this and my light bulb moment is that the deschooling process is something that's common for unschoolers, wild schoolers, people who are kind of exiting that regular, getting out of the public school mind. And I'd say all homeschoolers really should do that because you're coming out of that public school system and you really want to start with a fresh slate for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to keep kind of falling back into that mindset that we're used to from public school. And how does this connect to birth and motherhood? Because I feel like all mothers, all women who are on a pathway to become a mother need to clear that slate of what we've been told, taught, shown on TV, told by friends, read in books, and been kind of conditioned to believe about what a healthy pregnancy is and how scary birth is, how painful birth is, the way we're perceived, what typical birth looks like. We need to clean that slate in order to start from a fresh perspective, because there's so much of that trauma, wounds, ancestral wounds, generational traumas, perceptions of society from TV and other people's experiences, the witch burnings, the witch trials was actually a big part of our sacral wounds, which carry us into our womb healing needs, our womb traumas. Goes so far back there as well. And if you want to chat more about how that connects, it's an interesting connection between the witch trials and our sacred womb and the wounds that are there, about how we have given up our sovereignty in a lot of ways. We've given up our power, we've given up our voices in order to survive, essentially. We've gone into hiding. And that's where kind of witchcraft and the wisdom of women and midwifery and stuff kind of became this underground activity, because there was this fear of being persecuted and burned and thrown in the streets and given up by neighbors. So we've been taught to follow what doctors tell us. And that's really where a lot of that comes from, is we've been taught to shut up, listen to your doctor or midwife, and don't question anything. They're the experts. Listen to the expert. You don't worry your little pretty little head. When that's not the way birth should look. It's one of the most powerful acts of liberation we can go through. Extremely transformative when we immerse ourselves in it. This takes us to the edge of, the edge of consciousness is what I was going to say. It brings us to the veil between life and death, into the spiritual realm. We're ushering a new soul into this world. It's such a sacred ritual that has been so it's been suppressed in so many ways. There's so much fear tactics around it. There's so much control powers that want to just numb women out so they don't come to that higher conscious veil, where beyond the veil of what childbirth really is. And I experienced that myself from my first pregnancy. My birth was in a hospital. I'm going to share this here quickly just because this is a part of my purpose. And my first birth was in a hospital setting. I knew I wanted a fairly natural birth, or what could be considered natural in a hospital. So I had a nurse midwife. The hospital I was in was fairly, let's say, natural compared to many other hospitals. So I had a nurse midwife. However, halfway through my pregnancy, symptoms of preeclampsia began to rise. So, of course, the fear of myself set in. I thought I was doing everything right. I was a personal trainer at the time. I was following all of the high protein recommendations, all of the healthy living, the supplements, the protein powders. I was doing all of the prenatals and powders and all sorts of things that were supposed to be the best out there for pregnancy. It still ended up in preeclampsia. I was induced early. That stuff. Thankfully, I didn't have a C-section. I was still adamant about not having a C-section. But yeah, it didn't end the way I wanted it to. There was definitely trauma for me from that experience. However, the point of that is that after this birth, I began to get committed I knew I wanted more children. So I knew that I had to do some work to not only, one, heal from that pregnancy, but two, because I was someone who had been in the nutrition industry, I knew in my gut that a big part of what went wrong was my body and the way the hospital setting viewed my birth. So those are two aspects. How are they viewing your situation? What is their perception of the situation and the protocols they want to run on you? And two, how is your body feeling? How well is your body? Are you actually nourishing your body the way that it's supposed to be nourished? I followed the idea that high protein was supposed to help with the symptoms of preeclampsia. They helped with the symptoms temporarily. And this is where I disagree with the idea now that you should have higher protein to help with preeclampsia. I actually think the opposite. Because, and this is another aspect of the self-study that I have found in the 8 years following this birth experience. So I went into raw food world. I went into following Dr. Morse. I actually did the regenerative nutrition, the detox specialist certification. I don't carry and label myself as a detox specialist because I also have a raw food certification. I have a naturopathic practitioner certification. So what I've taken from each of those things has been kind of based with my own instincts too. So I'm taking information from all of those places that I studied and following my wisdom, my own, like I said, instincts, also with the supportive information and books and other studies to help with supporting that idea. And I don't feel like protein is beneficial in that circumstance in increasing protein, because I now believe that a big part of preeclampsia is weak kidneys. It is overstressed kidneys and liver, which cause often the edema and the waterway, the blood pressure issues, because adrenal and kidneys are both key factors in blood pressure. And then it causes the protein in the urine because it's dumping it can't process and break down the proteins properly. So why would we be adding protein, more protein, when finding protein dumped in the urine is one of the key symptoms of preeclampsia? That means that your body the kidneys are not detoxifying properly for the urine release. So I did raw foods before my second pregnancy. I was fully raw for a good few months actually before I got pregnant. And I wasn't fully raw in that pregnancy, but most of it. And I had very little animal products. I did have a little bit. I had a little bit of cravings here and there. But that was by far my healthiest pregnancy. And I was mostly raw. I would say raw till 4 is that label. Lots and lots of fruits, fresh juices. And even now, you can look at your children and see their health as they get older, their health at all. And it will be very reflective of your pregnancy with them. And it's not a blame. It's not a matter of blaming. There can be kind of some shame, self-shame or whatever involved in that, but there's no need for that because it gives you wisdom and information to look back at your pregnancy with a child. What kind of traumas did you experience in your pregnancy? What kind of things did you go through energetically? The energetics of your body and your physicality during pregnancy and birth is a blueprint for your baby as well. So it's not just nutrition as in the intake of food. It is the absorption of sunlight, grounding, getting outside, physical activity. What are you surrounding yourself with? What kind of reading do you do? What kind of work do you do? Are you stressed all the time? Like, all of that matters to the wellness of your body. Are you moving? Are you dancing? Are you clearing energetic blocks in your system? All of these things matter. And it's not just nutrition. Nutrition for me, though, was that gateway into the deeper emotional and spiritual healing process. The nutrition was one of those things that lightened my body, cleared out a lot of blocks, and it brought me into the emotional and spiritual aspects of my own healing journey. It triggered it. So once we decongest, regenerative nutrition is about cleansing the body of obstructions and regenerating at a cellular level, helping regenerate your organs, bringing everything back up to optimal function. So as you begin to clear out the obstructions, the mucus in your body, any congestion in your bowels, in your intestines, like there's so much that's backed up in our bodies, especially if we've been eating a standard American diet. If you're high in grains, high in meats, high in dairy, you will be very congested in the body. Your lymphatic system will likely be very stagnant. Your kidneys likely will be very weak. Your liver will probably be really heavy as well. And colon and bowels. I remember reading one of the first books I ever read on nutrition. Actually, it would have been back in my early 20s. It's called like The Green Cleanse or something. I don't remember. But this has always stuck with me. If your colon is congested, you're sick. If your colon is congested, as in you're not going, number 2, as often as the meals that you're eating, then you are constipated. And if you're constipated, you are sick. Because if you're not eliminating things from your body, if you're not fully eliminating the waste from your body, you're holding it and it's toxic. You're holding in the toxicity. that needs to be eliminated. And I would say 95% of our population is constipated and sick. And I fell in that category. And it's still something I'm working through now, as I kind of fell off my raw food nutrition a few years ago with the divorce. Now I'm coming back into it from the starting over again, as I'm getting back into my raw food with the herbs and the flower essences, in dancing. So there's so many things that go into an embodied birth. And that is why I am calling myself an embodied birth coach, because I am bringing in the nutritional cleansing, because I think it's an important aspect of preparing for pregnancy. So that is the kind of detoxification for pregnancy is something to do before you ever get pregnant. If you're planning to get pregnant, if you want to get pregnant, if you're having fertility issues, I assure you that doing a nutritional detox, a regenerative detox, not just one of the nutritional, like a detox system, like a weekend detox or any of that. That's not what I mean. A regenerative detox is something that's much longer. It's more in depth. It's about completely changing your diet and the way you eat and your connection to your food. It will really completely shift and transform the way you see food, the way you relate to food, the way you relate to your body. It helps you get more connected to your physical body, your vessel, your emotional and spiritual health. All of this is aspects of your own embodiment, which as we get into an embodied essence, then you are more sovereign in yourself. So that when you come into birth, you know what you want. You know what you don't want. You're confident in birthing at home. You know that your body is built to birth a baby, that you don't need any doctor to be there. You don't need any of the medications, epidural, any of that, because you don't. We are built to birth. We're mammals. We're meant to birth. And we're designed to do it undisturbed, uninterrupted, no hands inside you, nobody poking or prodding or anything. And the more we get embodied, the more we ground ourselves, heal nutritionally, which helps us heal emotionally and spiritually. That is where this liberation of birth is really going to happen. And when we liberate our birth, we transform our opportunities in motherhood. We become different women. And the way you are more intentional with your mothering shows up as well. It's a whole process. It's not just about wanting to birth in the woods or simply wanting a free birth. It's an entire awakening process. And that's why I called this Wildly Awakened Birth. That's why I've gone with that name, because it's not just about where you birth or how you birth. It's how you feel in yourself, how your body is in alignment with your soul, how grounded you are, how in tune you are with how your body feels and what it needs. All of it is a part of this awakening journey. And birth is just one aspect, but I felt for me, birth was the biggest aspect. I slowly walked into this world with being a yoga teacher. That was kind of my catalyst. Well, no, I wouldn't say it's the catalyst. It was my starting point. That's where I tiptoed in, was as a yoga teacher. The catalyst was birth. That first birth experience was the one that pushed me to go further and dig deeper. And that's why I'm here. And that's what I want to offer to other women, is that support for having the most embodied birth you can. in alignment with yourself, in your own power, under your own roof, your own terms, and in a solid physical condition, nutritionally and emotionally and spiritually, so that you don't doubt yourself. A lot of times these fears and worries and anxieties that come up is a matter of self-doubt. It's not trusting in yourself. It's not trusting in your body. It's not trusting in our ability. But all of those things are there. We just have to remember it. So, with that said, I am doing personal sessions, and I also offer coaching. I'm a birth keeper. I know I've said that before too. I went to Radical Birth School under the Free Birth Society. So I'm bringing all these aspects of myself together with the nutrition and the detox and the body work with yoga and the birth keeper school, and bringing these things to the forefront of being able to support women who have gone through similar experiences as me, or want to avoid those things and want to be more embodied, want to heal their body, who are suffering certain diseases or illnesses, and they want to heal from that. And that is number one to having a healthy pregnancy, is having a healthy body. Your body needs to be well and refreshed and nourished to ensure that level of freedom in birth, so you can be confident that you're fully capable of doing this. So if you want to work with me, you can DM me anytime. You can go on my website. I have updates to do on my website as I'm revamping things. But you can always message me to chat. And I want to do, right now I'm doing one-on-one sessions for nutrition. I do yoga classes, or one-on-one yoga as well, but for birth coaching, birth keeping. So whatever you want from me in those areas, you can let me know. And I'm hoping to do soon here some sort of workshop or course. And because that light bulb moment about deschooling for homeschoolers, I also have the same idea of, unlearning the mind. I don't know what to call it yet. Unlearning what we've all been taught to see birth as, or perceive it as, in order to start fresh and rebuild a new paradigm, a new perspective, a new experience for yourself that is self-driven. And that's what I'm here to offer, is to help create that new foundation for yourself. So thank you for being here, and everyone have a wonderful weekend.